Hey ladies, it's Tangy and I am back this week to talk about Rachel. Now, if you'll remember, last time I was talking with you, we were talking about Rebecca, and at the end, Rebecca had sent her son Jacob to her homeland, the land of her brother, and wanted him to find a wife. So when Jacob gets there, he automatically falls in love with Rachel. Rachel was the daughter of Rebecca's brother. So Jacob went to his uncle and asked to marry Rachel in return for 7 years of work. His uncle said, okay, work for 7 years, you can marry Rachel. So that goes. 7 years passes. He's wedding night, they're throwing a wedding feast. Well, his uncle decides he's going to trick Jacob. This point in my head, I'm thinking, man, this deceitful and tricking family and how sin's passed down from generation, because it just seems to be all in this family, this idea of deceit. So anyway, so he deceives Jacob on the wedding night. When he goes in to sleep with Rachel, he ends up sleeping with Leah, her older sister. And Jacob goes to him and says, hey, this wasn't our deal. And he said, well, I can't let you marry the younger one without the older one being wed. He says, I'll give you Rachel at the end of this week if you work for me for another 7 years. So Jacob agreed. So he married Rachel after a week of being married to Leah. So what you have right now is you have two sisters who are married to the same man within a week of each other. I don't know how this could possibly go wrong, right? So they're married to both. Well, Leah gets pregnant. Leah starts having kids. Well, this is upsetting to Rachel because Rachel can't have kids right now. For some reason, whatever reason God had for her, she was barren. And so Jacob and her are talking, and she's like, give me children or I'm going to die. And Jacob's like, I can't give you that. That's not my place. I'm not God. And we're going to pause here for a second. Because how many times do we expect other people to fulfill things in our lives and do things in our lives that only God has the ability to do? I know for me, sometimes I expect my husband to give me answers when really I should be going to the Lord. Or we expect elders or deacons or pastors to give us specific answers when sometimes those specific answers can only come from our relationship with the Lord and Him talking to us and Him giving us those blessings. So that's something to think about. You know, I'm definitely guilty of expecting other people sometimes to fulfill the things that the Lord can only fulfill in my life. So back in our story, she hasn't had any kids. So now it's become a constant competition and jealousy and rivalry between her and Leah. Leah doesn't have a problem having kids, but Rachel can't. So Rachel gives her servant to Jacob as a wife, and she has kids. Well, then Leah gives her servant, and then the servant has kids. So now Jacob's got 4 wives at least. He's had kids with Leah. He's had kids with the 2 servants, but Rachel still hasn't had any children. Now, so it's just constant competition, constant comparison, constant rivalry. And does the Lord eventually answer Rachel and she does have a son, Joseph? Yes, she does. But what I want to focus on and what I felt the Lord talking to me about this week was, how many times do we as Christian sisters focus on others? We compare ourselves to others. We feel like we have to compete. We compare our children, or my children being like her children, or are my children succeeding like her children are, or we compare our marriages, like, why is me and my husband aren't as happy as that couple, or how come that couple, is doing this and we can't do this, or our paychecks, our jobs, we become jealous of each other, or we become anxious in our own skin because we feel we're not being able to keep up with the way society is showing us the world around us. But that's not how God intended for this to be. God intended us to be there for each other, to lift one another up, to encourage one another, to be there when times get tough. You know, I think about Leah and Rachel and how different could their relationship have been. The father deceived both of them. I'm sure Leah wasn't like, yeah, I want to marry my sister's husband who only loves her. Nobody wants to feel unloved, So they both were deceived by their father. They were sisters at one point, so I'm sure they loved each other. But they competed. But how different it could have been if they had just been there for each other, if they had leaned on each other, if they had talked about things. And that's one of the goals that I hope that we have as a group, is not to compete, not to say, oh, look, she made this super awesome, cool Pinterest snack, and then feel insecure or prideful either way because of that. Or, and that's something silly. But I know I've done it before. I've gone to kids' birthday parties and thought, whoa, I'm a bad mom because I don't do all this. Or, I've done something really cool and I was like, oh, I did this, but really wasn't necessary for me to say anything like that. So we need to live our lives in a way that is constantly bringing each other up, lifting each other up, encouraging each other, being real with each other. That doesn't mean we don't hide how we feel, but it means that we go to each other and we communicate. And in communication, we build relationships. And so I hope with Sherwood Sisterhood that that's what we're doing, is building relationships. I know I need relationships in my life. And there are people that I know the Lord has told me to reach out to, and I probably haven't. And I'm sure there's other people in this group who have let opportunities pass by. But let's not let any more opportunities pass by. Let's constantly seek out those who we can have a relationship with. Not compare ourselves, not try to compete with each other, but just be real with each other and love each other and help each other. So that's my prayer for our group this week, is that one of the lessons we learned from Rachel is that we don't have to live a life like that. We don't have to live a life competing, but we can live a life in the confidence of Christ and let Him build the relationships in our life. And that's it, I guess. So y'all have a good day and a good weekend. See you guys later.